Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from SimpleProgrammer.com. So I am in Venice, Italy, but I am inside of the apartment here today because it's raining outside and I'm afraid of the rain. Actually, yeah, it's not exactly the best place to explore in the rain, Venice, with all the water and canals and everything. So I'm using this time to catch up and answer a couple of questions now that I can actually answer questions because I've got my laptop here. When I'm out on the road, it's a little bit difficult to answer questions because I can't read the questions because I'm using my phone. So I got this question that's been sitting on my board for a while here about a book. If you haven't checked it out already, check out my latest book called The Complete Software Developer's Career Guide. It's been a bestseller. It was on the Wall Street Journal best-selling list number 6 for nonfiction on its debut week. And it's being translated currently into a bunch of different languages: Chinese, Japanese, Korean, probably Russian, and Polish, amongst others. I'm also going to be working on the audio version as soon as I get back from this trip. So, anyway, well, let's see. I got this question. John, congratulations on being an Amazon bestseller. That's an incredible achievement. I've been following you for some time now, and I'm a huge fan of Simple Programmer. I'm constantly sharing your articles with colleagues that are new to the workforce. Cool, appreciate that. I'm emailing you as I am seeking advice from an accomplished writer like yourself. I am in the process of writing my first ebook. The ebook is a practical approach to learning Amazon Web Services by leveraging the service to solve real-world problems. In writing it and beginning to think about the launch of the book in the fall, I started to generate some questions. I was hoping others that have more experience and success like yourself could provide some advice around these questions. So he's got a couple of questions here. What was the toughest part about launching your own ebook and reaching the success you have now? What research did you do before writing your book to set yourself up for success? How long did it take you to complete your book? And do you have any advice on how to approach pricing? It would mean the world to me. Any advice you could give a new author like myself? Thank you for your time. So, a couple of things here. So I'm going to kind of go through these questions, and I'm going to talk about a few things and a few thoughts I have since I've written 2 published books now, like 2 officially published books, pretty big ones. Soft Skills. If you haven't checked that one out, that was my first book. It was traditionally published by Manning. It's about 500 pages, and the Complete Software Developer's Guide is actually about 800 pages. There's a lot of spacing in there, so maybe it's like equivalent of 600 pages, but it's a long book. Let's see. So what was the toughest part about launching your own ebook and reaching the success you have now? So there's a couple of things here that I'd say. So first of all, launching your own book, right? So I'll tell you a little bit of background here. So Soft Skills, like I said, you can check out the link again. Click the little I to expand the cards or look in the description. But Soft Skills was a traditionally published book, okay? And I wanted to do my first book traditionally published because there's a certain credibility that you get, a certain resume building if you want, or business card that you get for having a traditionally published book, where a publisher has published you, right? It adds a lot of credibility to your name, and it's like it's a thing. I got my book published, right? It's different. Anyone can publish a book themselves. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but that's the first thing I did. Then the Complete Software Developer's Career Guide. I self-published this book, right? Simple Programmer, my company, published this book essentially, and that was a lot more work. So when you have a publisher, they do a lot of things for you, and mostly it's around scheduling, formatting all the stuff, the editing, putting together the cover, putting together all of the editing that has to be done, index, all this kind of stuff. A little bit of marketing, not so much marketing as you would expect. The marketing I actually handle a lot better on my own. So the toughest part about launching, I'm going to talk about launching your own book. I'll talk about writing a book in general. So the toughest part about writing a book in general is maintaining the momentum and the excitement throughout the project. It's a long project, right? Especially writing a decent sized book. Now, I've never written, to me it seems like writing a 20 or 30,000 word book would be pretty damn easy, or maybe like a 40 or 50,000 word book, considering that Soft Skills was like 150,000 words and Complete Software Developer's Career Guide was 200,000 words. So, I will tell you, in writing both of those books, the first two, after the first 2 chapters were written, maybe the first 5 chapters, I was done. I was done writing the book. That was fun. It's fun to write. Now it's no more fun. and it changed. I mean, there were periods of time when I was writing the book or either of the books, where the chapter was fun and I was having fun with it, and it flowed through my fingers and it was all great. But there were a lot of times where it was just a lot of hard work and grind, and I was like, I'm not sure if I really want to write a book anymore. But you got to get through it. So the toughest part about launching your book, the first part, is just maintaining the momentum to keep going forward. And so I'll tell you this, this will kind of maybe spill over into some of the other questions here, but one of the things that you got to do, if you're going to write a book, okay, and I'll tell you this, because there's a lot of you that are watching this video, I know it, you've said, I'm going to write a book, and you've sat down and you've written a couple of pages of a book, or you've got this project that you think you're going to write a book, and you haven't done it. And here's why: because you haven't planned it out properly, right? In this case, you have to plan out the chapters. You have to plan out the outline. You have to plan out the way that you're going to work on it and the schedule that you're going to take in order to do this, right? Just like picking up any other habit, right? Because you're going to be doing a habit for a while. And so I took 2 approaches. With Soft Skills, my first book, what I did was I wrote the whole book in 3 months. And I basically planned on doing, I basically was writing a chapter a day. That was the plan. I had divided up into, like 70-something chapters, and I did about a chapter a day. In fact, it took me about 2 months to write the book, and that was the plan, right? And every day, that's what I focused on. I didn't have anything else really on my plate. When I did Complete Software Developer's Career Guide, I took a different plan, but I still had a plan. I still had all the table of contents in a Trello board charted out for me, and my plan was to work 1 Pomodoro, or actually 2 Pomodori, per day, which is, about an hour worth of writing per day, first thing in the morning, every single day. And I did that, rain or shine, pretty much, and I got that book done in it took me about 6 months of writing. It was a long process to do that, but I got the book done, right? So the thing is, the hardest thing about launching the book is that you've got to do the work, right? That's the hardest thing about anything. And this is the thing, it's like, so many people ask me questions, and and they want to find out the ideal way to do things, and I understand where they're coming from, but it's bullshit, because it's procrastination. Because what you got to do is dig in and do the work. Now, some people say, well, measure twice, cut once. I want to make sure I'm going in the right direction before I start going, and there's some truth to that, but just also, there's some truth to it's harder to steer a car that isn't moving. So start moving, start doing things, start taking action. And that's the thing with writing a book, is you just got to start writing it. And don't worry about how good it is. Don't worry, you can always edit it later. You can always go back through it. I did that with both of my books, and that's the thing. And so, I want to go off topic here and talk non-book stuff, but essentially anything that you want to do in life, you just got to do it. You just got to take action and start moving forward, because, you could debate this forever. And, and I did both of my books. I think I did one of them. There were just Word docs, right? And for Soft Skills, and Complete Software Developer's Career Guide was Google Docs. It was a Trello board with chapters, and it was a folder with Google Docs with just the writing in it, because it's the writing, right? I didn't use Scrivener. I didn't use, all these complicated software to do the writing, or complicated Markdown and all this stuff. It's not that complicated, but I didn't do any of that. I just wrote, okay? You just got to write. You just got to do if you want to accomplish this, okay? So that's one of the difficulties. The other difficulty about, because this person asked about reaching the success that I have now with the book, is that here's what a book is today. A book success is mostly based on the previous success of the author, right? The audience, the marketing, the branding of the author. Okay, I'm gonna promote here. I'm gonna say, go check out how to market yourself as a software developer. It's how to build a personal brand, right? Even if you're not trying to market yourself for a development job, like, go check out that course I put together. And the reason why I put together that course is because it's about building a brand and marketing yourself. And the bigger your audience is, okay, this is why I tell you guys this strategy. And I'll probably put out an entrepreneurship course telling you how to build a business soon, eventually, once I start. I think next year is going to be like working on courses here, but One of the primary things that I've talked about that I would continue to say is that you have to build an audience, right? So a book's success is going to be contingent on that, especially based on that. Right now, you can't write crap, and I guess some people do, but if you write crap, it's not going to last a long time, right? But the success is going to be built on the audience, right? When I launch Soft Skills. Okay, the reason why Manning, the publisher of Soft Skills, came to me and asked me to write a book and said, you can write a book on any topic you would like, and approved this odd topic of Soft Skills, Soft Developer's Life Manual, was because they said, oh, wait a minute, this John guy, this simple programmer, he has this pretty big audience. He's got this huge email list. He's got a lot of people. He's got a pretty good reputation in the industry, people who know who he is. So if he publishes a book and announces that he's published a book, well, it's going to sell a lot of copies, right? Automatically, just based on that. So that's why they came to me and offered me a publishing deal, right? Without me going to them. Now, that doesn't mean that that's always going to happen, but part of launching a book and being successful, the biggest part of the success of a book today, because there's so much noise out there, it's so easy, the barrier to entry for publishing, right, like with self-publishing, is so low. Anyone can write a book and put it on Amazon. So simple. It's very easy to do. So the biggest thing that you're going to have to do is build an audience, okay? And that's why I tell you, create a blog, right? Again, I'm going to link to my blogging course. Sign up for that if you haven't already, and go sign up and get your blog going. But build a blog, or build a YouTube channel, or build a podcast. There's a lot of ways to do this, or even go and speak at a bunch of developer events and conferences, or do all of those things, or just take one of them on at a time. Because when you build up an audience, when you are an expert in something, when you have a personal brand, then you build up a following, like I do. I mean, on this YouTube channel, I've got 115,000 subscribers. Right on my email list, we've got, close to, well, it depends on how many I've cut, but 70, 80,000, I don't know, 60,000 from, depending on how many dead emails are on the list. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of people. There's a million developers that hit Simple Programmer every month, approximately, maybe even more than that, right? So that's a lot of people. That's a pretty big audience. So when I sell something, I'm going to have success. And that's the thing. It's like, if you guys want to have success at things, it's not building the best product. It's not writing the best book, right? Now, I happen to think both of my books are really good, and other people who have left reviews on them think so as well, although some don't. But that's not the thing, right? And a lot of you think that if you do good, you're going to get rewarded. And it's not just doing good. It's doing good and doing things the right way. There's a lot of, you have to understand marketing, and you have to understand sales to be successful in this world as an entrepreneur, okay? And even just in general, like, those skills are so important for getting a promotion in a company, for any of those things. So the big part of writing the book, of getting the book to be successful, is that you have the audience, you have someone to sell to, you have someone who's listening to you already, and then that's sort of like, it's like having like kindling for a flame, right? For a fire, right? When you have that seed audience, then they're going to spread it if it's good, and then it's going to catch on. And that's what happened with Soft Skills. That's why I got published in so many different languages, and that's, with this book, I already had a even bigger audience, and who knows what's going to happen, how big this thing will go. Okay, so that's the big thing there. The other thing I would say, okay, with the launching the book, the toughest part about launching the book, it comes down to marketing. Marketing is tough shit, right? Okay, so it took me 6 months to write the book. It took me 6 months to develop and build and market the book, right? And there's a lot that goes into that. If you look at the Complete Software Developer's Career Guide, you'll notice I plug a lot of my other products in there, and I've got a lot of links to YouTube videos. You might have joined the YouTube channel from that book, right? I've got a lot of links to other stuff in there, and there was the launch was huge. I mean, that's how we made it to the number 6 on the Wall Street Journal best-selling list, is by doing a big marketing campaign, right? Emails, landing pages. I had 99 design contests, the cover design, all this stuff, right? And I don't want to see this to discourage you from writing, because the most important thing is, like, get something done and get it out there, right? At this stage, I wanted to do a really big launch, right? This was not something that's necessary, right? I could launch a book in a week, right? I could write a book and launch it in a week, and that's fine and be somewhat successful just based on audience being the number one most important thing. But I wanted to create something that's going to be an evergreen, best-selling book that could be the best-selling software development book of all time, right? That was one of the sort of goals, so I put a lot into this. But you do have to have some marketing, right? I mean, you have to reach people and tell them that your book's available. You have to convince them. You have to have, you know, something to draw people in, and that's really tough. I mean, building a product, right, selling something is the tough part. Building the product is tough, but selling it is tough as well. That's why a lot of people aren't cut out to be entrepreneurs, and they shouldn't be, is because they're not ready for all this. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. It's not just, you can't just build the thing and you can't just market the thing. You've got to be able to do both of those things. Let's see. So I'm going to move on here. This is going to be a little bit of a long one here, but what research did you do before writing your book to set yourself up for success? And so here's the thing. When I write, just like in one of these YouTube videos, for the most part, a lot of it is stuff that's already in here, right? I mean, one of the best ways to write a book is to have stuff that you need to say rather than to find stuff to say. Same thing with YouTube videos. You guys know when I'm doing YouTube videos, and you know, where I'm trying to find stuff to say, or where I have stuff to say, okay? And when you're trying to find stuff to say, it's hard, right? It's a lot more research, a lot more difficult, right? For both of my books, for Soft Skills and for Complete Software Developer's Career Guide, those chapters came from stuff I wanted to say. Now, there is an exception to this. In the Complete Software Developer's Career Guide, the section 3 of the book, which is all the technical skills that you need to know, there's a couple of those that I just I had to put in there because it's necessary for it to be complete. Like web development chapter, I hated that chapter. There's a couple other ones. Actually, the source control chapter I kind of didn't like, but I had so much fun writing it and making it funny that it actually turned out to be one of the best chapters in the book. So I did some research on some of that stuff. You know, if you can't talk about something, then you need to well, and here's the other thing. This is the deceiving part of it. How much research did I do? 0 and 100%. And why do I say that? Because all the time I've been reading. I'm always reading. I'm always learning, always developing all this, the skills, all of this information. I'm always consuming it. And so I'm technically always researching until I'm bursting with stuff to say and talk about. The reason why I can do so many videos a lot of times is because I'm always absorbing new information, always reading new books, always taking in new ideas and thoughts and stuff. And so that's all kind of research. And so if you have trouble writing, okay, and this is something that a lot of writers will agree on. The best thing you could do is research a lot, right? And I forget who said it, but you know, it's been said multiple times before that a good writer has to be someone with a lot of life experience. They have to go and live a lot, right? So a lot of writers would spend some time. I mean, look at Ernest Hemingway, for example, right? The dude was. I mean, how many places was he at the front lines of battle? And he was so many things. He had to have an interesting life in order to have stuff to write about. So that's kind of his research. So if you want to, let's say that you're doing a technical book. I know a lot of you are doing technical topics and stuff. Do a lot of research. Make sure that you've got you either have the information because you're already so much into it. So you've been doing the research, not consciously, but you've got it, and it can pour out of you. Or if you feel like you put your pen to the paper and nothing comes out, then just research, okay? Listen, if I was going to write a book on World War II, I'd read 50 books on World War II, and then I'd have so much information just pouring out of me and ideas and stuff that'd be easy to write. If you sit down and you can't write, if it doesn't feel easy to write, if your fingers aren't moving, if your fingers are moving slow, if they're not moving, you know, if you don't feel like you need to have them moving faster because you have so much stuff that's flowing out of you that your fingers can't catch up, then you've got a problem. Then it's going to be hard to write, okay? And that's something I've learned. In some chapters, I had to struggle through that because you just got to write the book, but when in doubt, you know, just absorb a lot of information. It's not an excuse for not writing and not doing, but the more that you know, the more that you feel about a subject, the better it'll flow and the better it'll sound when you put it out as well. Which, like I said, is the same thing for the YouTube videos, right? So, I mean, I could talk about this topic about writing book, right? Like you can tell here, I don't have to think of any fluff, right? I don't have to what should I talk about how to write a book? No, I could talk about this for fucking 5 hours, right, or more, because I've spent so much time doing this and thinking about this, and I've got so much to say on this, so I have to condense this down to 25 minutes, okay? So, let's see, how long did it take you to complete your book? Do you have any advice on the approach to pricing? So, I already talked about how long it took me to complete the book, but as far as pricing is a very interesting thing, and again, I could talk about this for a very long time, but I won't. Instead, I'll just say this: that when you write a book, Okay, you need to think about what is the goal. When you do anything, you need to think about what is the goal, like what is the purpose. And for me, with the Complete Software Developer's Career Guide, the goal was to be #1 on Amazon, was to get as much exposure as possible. That was the goal. And that's why I launched it at such a low, like the Kindle version for 99 cents and the print version for was like $19. I mean, that I had to do it for I would have done it even cheaper if I could have, but that's what it cost to print it, essentially. I was making money on those because that was the goal. And then the plan was that once I had exposure, then we can make some money off of the book. And it's still not making a huge amount of money. I mean, it's making a decent amount of money, but your pricing, you know, again, it depends on your audience too, and what you're doing. So if you have a large audience, you can price things larger, right? If you're going to be selling things to your audience, you should sell things at a higher price. If you don't have an audience and you're trying to build an audience, right? A book can be a good way to build an audience. A book is usually not a good way to make money. Now, if you have a huge audience, a book can make you some money, but you got to think about like kind of momentum and where you want to be, and you know, are you actually going to make money off of this, right? A lot of people make pricing mistakes. And my publisher for soft skills did, Manning did, and they still do, because they think about profit margins. And profit margins is not, see, okay, the equation for money, okay, it goes like this. It goes like this. It goes number of units sold, okay, and then it goes profit per unit sold, okay, and those things combined together, multiplied, equals profit, right? Aside from distribution costs and whatever, but let's simplify the equation to those two things. And so there's two ways to make profit, right? This is just some general business sense for you here, is you can increase the number of units sold, or you can increase the profit made per unit sold. Okay, that's pretty much it. Or you can, you know, lower the cost to produce units. But we're going to ignore that because it doesn't really matter in this case for books, especially for ebooks, right? Where the production cost is essentially zero to deliver. So what is going to be more effective? What is a more effective lever for you to pull, okay? As you increase price, which is profit per unit sold, you decrease the number of people that buy, right? So there's optimal places here, right? And as you decrease price, you can sort of increase the number up to an extent of people that buy. And so I would say that for most people, right, you want to think about it like, and run the numbers and say, how many are you planning on selling? Because if you're planning on selling 1,000 copies of your book, okay, and let's say that your book is going to give you $5 profit per copy sold, you're going to make $5,000. That's peanuts. $5,000. Just sell it for $1 instead, and sell 10,000 copies, or you sell 5,000 copies instead of one. You see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. Like that doesn't matter. Now, if you're talking about selling like 100,000 copies of a book, now the pricing suddenly matters. Now it matters whether you're selling that thing for $5 or $10, because that could be twice the profit. It could be a lot of money. It could be $50,000, $100,000. So I'm saying, depending on what your financial situation is and where you value it. So if you do not have an audience or an expectation to sell a large number of copies of a book, don't do it for the money. Do it for the exposure, for the calling card, for the, you know, and you want to get as much to build an audience. So sell it as cheaply as possible, to some degree free. Because the play here is not to make money off of the book. It's to build the audience, to make money off of some of the products and the other things, right? And make a little bit of money off of the book. But you know, if the book becomes a runaway success, which is already doing pretty well, then you start to raise the price, okay? But you want to give something a chance to grow first, rather than having a high price, right? It's so stupid. Again, you know, I have to say that so many people make this mistake and they price things too high, because they're afraid that they're not going to make enough money off of the deal. It's not worth it, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter if you're not moving a lot of units. If you're moving a lot of units, price matters. If you're not moving a lot of units, you need to move a lot of units. If cutting the price will move a lot of units, that's good, because there's a certain like momentum, and when you hit this point, this breaking point, or whatever you call it, tipping point, Malcolm Gladwell would say, it creates this momentum, which then you can capitalize off of. So you want to get there. If you're never going to get there, it doesn't matter. And then let's see, what What else is there? That's it. That's it. I've answered all the questions. It took me about 25 minutes to do so. I've got a lot more to talk about on books. If you have questions on books and publishing and all this stuff, leave a comment below. You can always email me at john@simpleprogrammer.com. No guarantee that I will reply. I get a lot of emails there, but sometimes I do videos from the emails, and that's all I got for you. All right, click that subscribe button. Make sure that you don't miss any videos, and I'll talk to you next time.